This is one of those memories that finds its way back to me every single fall without fail. The moment the air gets cold and the leaves start turning, it's right there waiting for me. It was mid-October, the kind of evening where the sky goes purple before it goes black. And my older cousin Dana had convinced our whole group to do the corn maze at Whitfield Farm, about 20 minutes outside of town. There were 6 of us. Me, Dana, her boyfriend at the time, who I'll call Reese, and 3 of our mutual friends. I'll call them Dia, Soren, and Mac. We were all between 16 and 18, old enough to think we were brave. We really weren't. The farm itself was exactly what you'd picture. Hay bales stacked by the entrance, a hand-painted sign, little kids running around with caramel apples. It felt safe and seasonal and fun. The maze was advertised as a 1-mile loop through the field. They told you at the entrance it should take about 30 minutes. There were glow sticks at the entry booth, $2 each, and Dana bought a handful for the group. We had flashlights on our phones too, so we felt more than prepared. The farm closed at 9, and we got in around 7:30, so we had plenty of time. At first, it was genuinely fun. We were laughing and getting deliberately lost just to mess around. Dia kept jumping out from behind stalks to scare Mac, who screamed every single time and then pretended he wasn't scared. The corn was tall, well above our heads, which made it feel enclosed in a way that was thrilling at first. But somewhere around the 40-minute mark, the mood started to shift. We hadn't found the exit. The path started looking the same. Reese kept insisting he knew the right way and kept being wrong, which was both funny and mildly infuriating. And then the lights from the main farm area, which you could see glowing above the corn, went out. That was when the noise of the farm stopped, too. The distant music, the speaker, announcements, the sound of families, all of it just cut off. It was 9 o'clock. The farm had closed, and we were still inside the maze. We weren't panicking yet, just quietly acknowledging the situation. Dana tried calling the farm's number off the website, but got the voicemail. We figured we'd just move fast and find the exit. Should be simple enough. It wasn't. We walked for another 10 minutes, and nothing looked like an exit. The paths curved and doubled back and split in ways that felt random. At some point, Max said something that made everyone go quiet. He said he thought he heard footsteps behind us. Not our footsteps, something else. We all stood still and listened. The corn rustled, but that was the wind. Still, there was something under the rustling. A soft, rhythmic crunching, like someone walking slowly through the rows parallel to her, just keeping pace. I told myself it was an employee doing a final sweep of the maze. That made sense. So I called out. I said something like, "Hello? We're still in here. We need help getting out." Nothing. The crunching stopped. Reese shone his flashlight through the corn stalks, but couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction. We kept moving. So did the sound. We'd been in there close to an hour when Soren grabbed my arm and pointed. At the far end of the path we were on, standing completely still, was a person. Tall, dark clothing, face completely obscured by what I can only describe as a burlap hood or sack tied around their head. For one horrible moment, I thought it was part of the attraction. A scare actor they'd planted in the maze. But the farm had already closed. There were no more customers to scare. And this person wasn't doing anything theatrical. They were just standing at the end of that path, head slightly tilted, not making a single sound. Dana said under her breath, "We need to go the other way. Now." She didn't have to say it twice. We turned around and walked quickly back the way we came, nobody running yet, but everyone moving with that electric urgency in their legs. I glanced back once. The figure had moved to the entrance of the path we were just on. It was following. That's when we ran. All 6 of us sprinting through the maze with no idea where we were going. Corn stalks whipping at our arms and faces. Dia tripped, and Mac pulled her up without breaking pace. We came around a corner, and I saw it, the wooden arch at the exit. The farm beyond it was dark and empty, but the arch was there. We burst through it and kept running across the gravel lot until we reached Dana's car. We got in. She started the engine before her door was even fully shut. We drove away, and nobody said anything for a solid 2 minutes. Then Soren asked quietly if anyone else had noticed that the figure never made a single sound while chasing us. No footsteps, no breathing, nothing, just movement. We had no explanation for it then. We still don't now. I've never been back to that farm, and I honestly don't think any of us ever will. Every October when a friend suggests a corn maze, I just shake my head and change the subject. This happened to me when I was 14. I grew up in a small suburban town where there wasn't a whole lot to do after school besides ride bikes and hang around the neighborhood. Behind the development where I lived, there was a wide nature trail that cut through the woods for about 1.5 miles and came out near the middle school on the other side. Kids used it constantly in summer. But once fall hit, almost nobody went back there. Too dark too early, too quiet. Most parents told their kids to avoid it after September. I had a friend I'll call Devin. Devin was the type of person who treated every rule as a suggestion and every warning as a challenge. So naturally, he decided in the first week of October that we should ride our bikes through the trail at dusk. I didn't want to go. I said I didn't have time, that I had homework, that my mom would want me home early. He called me every version of scared he could think of. I went. At first it was fine. The trail was familiar and wide enough for both our bikes. The trees were beautiful, honestly. All of that deep orange and red, and the late light filtered through in a way that was almost cinematic. Devin was up ahead of me, goofing around, standing on his pedals. I started to relax a little. Maybe it would be fine. It was just a trail. We were about halfway through when Devin slowed down, and I pulled up beside him. He was looking off to the left side of the trail, into the trees. He asked if I saw it. I looked. There was a man standing maybe 30 feet off the trail in the trees, between 2 large oaks. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there with his arms at his sides, facing directly toward us. He was wearing dark clothing and had no distinguishable expression that I could make out from that distance. But the thing that got me, the thing that still gets me when I think about it, is that there was no reason for a person to be standing between 2 trees in the woods, 30 feet off a trail at dusk in October. There was nothing over there. No benches, no structures, nothing. Devin, to his credit, was not laughing this time. He muttered that we should keep moving, and we started pedaling again, faster than before. I didn't look back for about 30 seconds, and when I did, the man was no longer between the 2 trees. For a moment I thought, okay, maybe he walked away. Maybe it was some hiker who stopped to check his phone. I almost bought that. Then I saw him again. He was closer to the trail now. maybe 15 feet off it. Same posture, same stillness. He had moved without either of us seeing him move. I said Devin's name once, sharply, and he looked back and saw it too. We didn't discuss it. We just rode, hard, as fast as we could push those bikes. The trail exit came up, and we blew through it and didn't stop until we were on a lit street with houses on both sides. We were both breathing too hard to talk at first. Devin finally looked at me and said, "We are never doing that again." And from the guy who treated every dare as a personal calling, that meant something. I told my parents that night. My dad drove the length of the trail the next morning in his truck and didn't see anyone or anything unusual. Told me it was probably just some guy walking his dog or taking a break. Maybe. But I've walked with dogs in the woods, and I've taken breaks on trails. You don't stand stock still between two trees staring at strangers without blinking. And you definitely don't close 15 feet of distance without making a sound. I'm 20 now. That trail has been in the back of my head every October since. I want to start by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I grew up in northern Minnesota where the winters are brutal and the landscape is vast and mostly empty. You get used to isolation pretty quickly when you grow up there. Or at least you think you do. What happened to me 2 Octobers ago reminded me that no matter how comfortable you get with the dark, there are some things that cut right through that comfort. My family has a cabin about 40 minutes north of the town I grew up in. We used it mostly in summer, but every fall my dad liked to drive out there and do maintenance before the snow came. Check the pipes, clear the gutters, seal the windows, that sort of thing. I was 23 at the time, and I offered to go with him that weekend. My mom couldn't make it, so it was just the two of us. The drive out was nice. Classic fall up there, birch trees going gold, the smell of cold air and pine through the cracked window, geese moving south overhead. I felt genuinely good the whole drive. The cabin road is unpaved. It branches off the main highway and cuts through dense forest for about 3 miles before you reach the property. No neighbors for at least a mile in either direction. No cell service on the road itself, only spotty service at the cabin. My dad knew this road better than anyone. He'd been driving it for 30 years. We got there around 2 in the afternoon and spent the day doing what we came to do. By the time we finished and ate dinner, it was close to 8. We decided to head back rather than stay the night since neither of us had packed for it. My dad started the truck, we locked up, and we headed back down the cabin road toward the highway. We were maybe a mile down when the headlights caught something in the road. A person, standing directly in the center of the road facing us. My dad braked immediately. The person was a woman, or at least appeared to be one, wearing a long dark coat. Her hair was loose, and the headlights made her look pale. She had her hands at her sides, and she was looking straight into the truck without any reaction to the headlights or the engine sound. My dad lowered his window partway and called out, asking if she was all right. She didn't answer, didn't move, didn't blink as far as I could tell. He asked again. Still nothing. The road was too narrow to go around her safely, and my dad wasn't the type to just drive forward and risk hitting someone. So we sat there for a long moment, engine running, this woman just standing in the beam of the headlights, completely unresponsive. Then my dad said quietly, almost to himself, something I'll never forget. He said, "Lock your door." He said it so calmly that it frightened me more than if he'd been panicked. I locked it. He locked his. And then, very slowly, he started to reverse the truck back toward the cabin. He kept his eyes on the woman, and she kept her eyes on us, turning slowly to track the truck as we reversed. We went all the way back on all the way to the highway. The woman on all the way to the highway. The woman was gone. No sign of anyone. No car parked on the shoulder. Nothing. When we had signal, my dad called the county sheriff's department and reported it. The deputy who called back the next morning said there had been no reports of anyone stranded or injured in that area that night. He suggested it could have been someone whose car broke down further up the main road and who had walked onto the cabin road by mistake. That explanation didn't sit well with either of us. The road is gated with a private property sign at the highway entrance. You don't end up on it by accident. You end up on it because you chose to open that gate. I don't go to the cabin at night anymore. My dad doesn't bring it up much either. But I've thought about it hundreds of times. That stillness. The way she tracked the truck without moving her feet. Whatever she was doing, standing alone in the middle of an unmarked private road at 8 at night, in October, in the middle of the woods. I'm grateful we never found out. I was visiting my grandmother for the weekend. She lives in a small town in rural Georgia, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, and the nearest grocery store is 20 minutes away. Her property backs up against a large open field that belongs to a neighboring family. In summer, the field has crops. By October, it's been harvested, and it's just flat open land as far as you can see. During the day, it's nothing. At night, it's the kind of dark that feels heavy. My grandmother goes to bed early, around 9. I'm a night owl, so I stayed up reading in the living room. Around 11, I went to the kitchen to get some water, and the kitchen window faces the back of the property and the way to the tree line at the far edge. I wasn't really looking at anything in particular, just standing there drinking my water. And then I noticed something in the field. At first, my brain filed it as a fence post or some piece of farm equipment left out. It was roughly human in shape, but I told myself that was just the dark playing tricks. I kept looking anyway, because once you notice something like that, you can't really stop. It moved. Not a lot, not dramatically. But I watched it shift its weight, the way a person does when they've been standing in one place too long. That single small movement turned whatever I was feeling into something else entirely. There was a person standing in my grandmother's neighbor's field at 11 o'clock at night, close to the fence line, just standing there. And they were close enough that I realized, slowly, horribly, that they were facing the house, facing the window I was standing at. I stepped back from the window immediately and stood against the wall of the kitchen, heart going. I wanted to wake my grandmother, but I also didn't want to scare her. She's in her 70s and not in perfect health. So I just stood there against that wall, trying to decide what to do. After maybe 2 minutes, I worked up the nerve to look again. I approached the window from the side this time so I could see out without being as visible. They were still there. And I could tell now that it was a person. A tall person in dark clothing, standing completely still again, just at the fence, just watching the house. I pulled out my phone and called the non-emergency line for the local sheriff's office. I whispered what I was seeing and gave them my grandmother's address. The dispatcher was calm. and told me to stay inside, away from the windows, and that a deputy would come by. I went and sat in the hallway, away from any windows, and waited. The deputy arrived in about 15 minutes and did a sweep of the property and the perimeter fence. He came to the door afterward and said he didn't find anyone, but that there were fresh impressions in the soft ground near the fence line. Footprints facing the house, like I said. And they were deep, like someone had been standing in that spot for a long time. He couldn't say who it was or why they were there. He filed a report and suggested I make sure all the doors were locked and that I call back if I saw anything else. I didn't sleep that night. Not once. I sat in the living room with every interior light on until the sun came up. My grandmother never found out. I didn't tell her because she lives alone out there, and I didn't want to be the reason she was afraid in her own house. But I think about it constantly. The footprints being deep means they were standing there long before I ever looked out that window, long enough for the ground to compress under their weight, which means they were watching before I ever noticed them. I don't know who that was or what they wanted. I don't know if they'd been there other nights when no one was looking out. I try not to think about that last part. I really do.